The stars of Orion's belt shimmered in the night sky above Hyperion Colony, three brilliant points watching over the human settlement like ancient guardians. 10-year-old Mira Santiago stood on the balcony of her family's prefab home, her small fingers tracing the stellar patterns her father had taught her. The colony was still young, only 15 years since the first humans had arrived, but it was home to nearly 10,000 souls now, a thriving outpost on humanity's steady expansion into the stars. "Mira, dinner's ready," her mother called from inside. "Coming," she replied, taking one last look at the stars. That was the last normal moment Mira would experience for a very long time. The attack came without warning. No diplomatic messages, no demands, just destruction raining from the skies. Later, survivors would describe the Vordari ships as resembling obsidian arrowheads, sleek and deadly, moving with terrifying precision as they systematically disabled the colony's minimal defenses. Mira's father, Captain James Santiago of the Colonial Defense Force, had only enough time to activate the emergency beacon before shoving his wife and daughter toward the shelter. "Go. Run," he shouted, his uniform half-fastened as he rushed toward the command center. They never made it to safety. A precision strike hit their sector, the concussive force separating Mira from her mother. Through dust and debris, Mira saw strange figures moving. Tall, thin silhouettes with elongated limbs and bulbous heads. Not human. Not anything she had ever seen before. "Mom!" she screamed, but the sound died in her throat as something cold pressed against her neck. Darkness swept over her. When Mira woke, she was in a glass cell. The walls were transparent, allowing her to see identical enclosures stretching in all directions. Some contained objects, earth plants, animals, artifacts, while others held humans in various states of consciousness. Panic seized her chest as she pressed her palms against the cold surface, searching for a way out. "Subject 379 is awake," a voice announced in strangely accented English. "Begin documentation." 3 Vordari scientists approached her cell. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in a thin, metallic-looking exoskeleton. Their heads were large and bulbous, with 4 black eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. They had no visible mouth, yet somehow they spoke, the sound seeming to emanate from somewhere in their chest cavity. "This is a juvenile human female, approximately in the first decade of development," one stated, making notes on a transparent tablet. "According to our intelligence, humans are highly protective of their young. This makes them valuable research subjects for understanding human psychological weaknesses." Mira backed away until she hit the far wall of her cell. "Where's my mom? Where's my dad?" she demanded, struggling to keep her voice from trembling. The Vordari scientists ignored her questions. "Begin baseline physiological assessment," the lead scientist ordered. "Then proceed to stress response evaluations." What followed was beyond Mira's worst nightmares. The Vordari didn't just study her. They studied her pain, her fear, her breaking points. They deprived her of sleep, subjected her to sensory overload, tested her tolerance to extreme temperatures. All the while, they meticulously documented every tear, every scream, every moment her small body tried to endure what no child should ever face. "Remarkable resilience," noted the lead scientist, whom Mira had come to know as Xerex. "The human child continues to maintain cognitive function despite significant physical distress. Increase testing parameters by 20%. What the Vordari didn't realize was that the emergency beacon at Hyperion Colony had done more than alert nearby human outposts. It had transmitted a specific distress code, one that indicated the colony contained high-value military dependents. Captain Santiago's position had granted his family special protection protocols. Deep within Earth's military command center, a silent alarm triggered. Admiral Helena Chen was reviewing deployment schedules when her assistant interrupted with an emergency tablet. On it was a live stream. The Vordari were broadcasting their research throughout their scientific network, unaware that Earth's intelligence services had long ago infiltrated these channels. Admiral Chen watched for exactly 30 seconds as a small human girl with dark hair and terrified eyes flinched away from an approaching instrument. Her face betrayed no emotion, but her hand crushed the stylus she'd been holding. "Identify the child," she ordered, her voice deadly calm. "Mira Santiago, sir. Daughter of Captain James Santiago, Hyperion Colony Defense Force. Status of the colony: presumed destroyed. No survivors confirmed yet." Admiral Chen nodded once. "Initiate Protocol Obsidian. Immediate effect." Throughout human-controlled space, a wave of silence spread. Communication hubs went dark. Diplomatic channels closed without explanation. Trade routes ceased operation. Ships docked and powered down. Within 1 hour, humanity had disappeared from the galactic stage. The Vordari Dominion noticed almost immediately. Their ambassador to Earth found himself facing locked doors and unanswered communications. Trade vessels reported human ports denying access without explanation. Diplomatic missions went unanswered. Supreme Commander Vex of the Vordari Dominion was not concerned initially. "It's a primitive response," he told his council. "Humans are emotional creatures. They're expressing displeasure at our expansion into their territory. They will return to reason once they realize the futility of isolation." His intelligence chief, Mulox, was not so certain. "There are rumors, Commander. The older species speak of something called the silence before the storm. It's said that humans go quiet not out of fear, but out of focus. They say it preceded the extinction of the Caridian Empire 3 centuries ago." "Superstition," Vex dismissed with a wave of his elongated hand. "The Caridians destroyed themselves through internal conflict. Continue monitoring the situation, but proceed with research operations. The data we're gathering is too valuable to abandon." On Research Station Epsilon, Mira had stopped crying. After 3 days of constant testing, her tears had simply run out. She lay on the hard surface that served as her bed, staring up at the ceiling, reciting star constellations in her head to stay sane. Orion, Cassiopeia, Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. The lead scientist Xerex noted her apparent catatonia with interest. "Subject is showing signs of psychological withdrawal. Fascinating defense mechanism. Schedule cranial scanning for next cycle." That night, as the research station dimmed its lights for the sleep cycle, Mira thought she saw something through the viewport near her cell, a brief flash of light, gone so quickly she convinced herself it was imagination. Then the station's lights flickered, just once. In the monitoring room, a technician frowned at his console. "Sir, I'm detecting an anomaly in our communications array." Xerex moved to examine the readout. "Explain." "There appears to be a shadow signal piggybacking on our standard broadcast. It's accessing our research database." "Impossible. Our encryption is." The technician never heard the end of that sentence. Every screen in the monitoring room suddenly displayed the same image, a simple white symbol against a black background. An hourglass with a crack running through it. "What is the meaning of this?" Xerex demanded. The answer came not from his staff, but from the speakers throughout the station, a single sentence spoken in perfect Vordari. "You took one of ours. We know her name." On the primary Vordari homeworld of Vordar Prime, Supreme Commander Vex was awakened from his rest cycle by frantic communications. 3 border outposts had gone dark simultaneously. Scout ships dispatched to investigate failed to return. Then the reports became more disturbing. The Vordari science vessel, Empirical Truth, had been found drifting in space, its entire crew missing except for the research subjects, who were found unharmed in their cells. "It's impossible," his military chief insisted. "No species has the technology to board a vessel without triggering alarms, extract over 200 crew members, and depart without leaving any trace." Yet the evidence was undeniable. More concerning was the message left behind. A single line carved into the command center wall. "Where is Mira Santiago?" Vex felt the first stirrings of genuine concern. How many know of the human child? Only those directly involved in Project Resilience, the research team on Station Epsilon, and the original acquisition team that secured the specimen. And the acquisition team. A pause. We've lost contact with them. Sir, their vessel was scheduled to return 3 cycles ago. For the first time in his long career, Supreme Commander Vex felt a chill run down his exoskeleton. Divert additional security to Station Epsilon immediately. I want that research data secured and the human child placed under maximum protection. She is now our most valuable asset. But it was already too late. On Station Epsilon, alarms began blaring. Security teams rushed through corridors toward the research section, weapons drawn. They found the doors sealed, emergency protocols engaged from the inside. Override the locks. The security chief ordered. Sir, the systems aren't responding. Something is blocking our access. Inside the research section, Xerex and his team worked frantically to download their findings as the lights flickered around them. Secure the data. Years of research. We cannot lose it now. A junior scientist monitoring the cell suddenly gasped. Sir, the human child. Xerex spun around to see Mira's cell was empty. Not damaged, not breached. Simply empty, as if she had vanished into thin air. Impossible. Check the surveillance records. But the surveillance system showed nothing unusual. One moment Mira was lying on her bed. The next the image flickered almost imperceptibly, and she was gone. The station shuddered, a low vibration that quickly intensified. Emergency sirens changed tone, now warning of catastrophic system failures throughout the station. Evacuation protocol. Xerex ordered, grabbing the data cores. Get to the escape pods. As the scientists fled, none of them noticed the shadow that moved against the wall, a figure in dark armor, its surface seeming to bend light around it, carrying a small bundle wrapped in thermal blankets. By the time the Vordari reinforcements arrived at Station Epsilon, they found only debris. The station had been surgically destroyed, precision strikes that had sheared off the research section, while leaving the life support systems for the remaining research subjects intact. On Vordar Prime, Supreme Commander Vex stared at the reports with growing horror. Not just Station Epsilon, but every facility involved in the capture or study of humans had been hit. No warnings, no demands for the child's return, just methodical destruction. Sir, his intelligence chief said quietly, we've received a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. On the display appeared a simple message in Vordari script. You took Mira, Santiago. You hurt her. We have her back now. Protocol Obsidian continues. We are coming. Vex looked up at his assembled advisors, seeing the same fear reflected in all their eyes. What have we done? He whispered. The humans had not just gone silent. They had gone hunting. And they were just getting started. The Galactic Council, representatives from the 27 most influential spacefaring species, convened an emergency session for the first time in 3 centuries. The massive chamber, designed to showcase the majesty of cooperative governance, now hummed with nervous tension as delegates whispered among themselves. This is unprecedented, muttered Ambassador Tlax of the Centauri Collective. The humans have never revealed this level of technological capability. Because they never needed to, replied Elder Shiv of the Draxian Republic, his ancient eyes reflecting wisdom earned through painful experience. We have all underestimated them. The Vordari have simply paid the price for acting on that underestimation. Supreme Commander Vex of the Vordari stood before the assembly, his usual pride replaced by undisguised anxiety. Honorable Council, the Dominion requests immediate military assistance. Human forces have destroyed 17 of our research outposts, disabled 6 military installations, and compromised our entire communications network. We are facing an existential threat. Grand Arbiter Zolan, head of the Council, leaned forward. Commander Vex, our intelligence suggests these attacks followed the capture and experimentation upon a human child. Is this accurate? Vex shifted uncomfortably. The subject in question was obtained during standard territorial expansion operations. The research conducted was in accordance with Dominion scientific protocols. That is not what I asked. Zolan's voice hardened. Did you authorize experiments on a human child? Before Vex could respond, the chamber's lights dimmed. The massive display screens surrounding the council chamber activated simultaneously, showing the same image: a young human girl with dark hair and haunted eyes, lying on an examination table while Vordari scientists administered what was clearly painful stimuli. The footage played for 30 seconds in complete silence. When the lights returned to normal, a new figure stood in the center of the chamber, a human woman in a dark uniform devoid of insignia or rank. How she had appeared without triggering the Council's legendary security measures, no one knew. "I am Admiral Helena Chen of Earth High Command," she announced, her voice carrying effortlessly through the vast space. "The Vordari Dominion abducted, tortured, and experimented on Mira Santiago, age 10, daughter of Captain James Santiago and Dr. Elena Santiago of Hyperion Colony. The colony was destroyed. 5,342 civilians were killed, including both of Mira's parents." She paused, her eyes finding Vex. "These are not allegations. These are facts. We have recovered Mira. We have also recovered the Vordari research data, documenting every moment of her captivity." Vex's exoskeleton seemed to pale. "How did you access?" "We have accessed everything, Commander," Admiral Chen interrupted. "Your military deployments, your research archives, your personal communications authorizing Project Resilience." She turned to address the full Council. "Humanity does not seek the Council's permission or assistance. We are here out of courtesy, to explain what happens next." Grand Arbiter Zolan raised a hand. "Admiral Chen, while these acts against a human child are abhorrent, the Council must insist on diplomatic resolution. Diplomacy ended when they took Mira." Chen cut him off with clinical precision. "Protocol Obsidian has been enacted. It cannot be reversed." "What exactly is Protocol Obsidian?" asked Tulax, the Centauri ambassador. "It is our response to existential threats against human children," Chen explained. "All diplomatic and commercial relationships are suspended. All military assets are activated. All technological limitations are lifted." A murmur ran through the assembly at these words. Elder Shiv of the Draxians closed his eyes briefly, as if in pain. "You speak of technological limitations," Zolan said carefully. "What limitations has Earth imposed upon itself?" Admiral Chen's expression remained unchanged. "When humanity first joined the galactic community, we recognized our tendency toward aggressive innovation. To reassure our new allies, we agreed to restrict certain technological developments, particularly in the fields of stealth systems, nanite engineering, and consciousness transfer." "Those restrictions have now been lifted?" asked Ambassador Tlax, voice rising in alarm. "They have." The chamber erupted in voices. Several delegates immediately began transmitting urgent messages to their homeworlds. Zolan banged his ceremonial staff for order. "Admiral Chen," he said when quiet returned, "the Council acknowledges the grievous harm done to this human child. We condemn these actions unconditionally. But what you suggest, potentially destroying an entire civilization in retribution, that cannot be allowed." Chen's eyes were like hardened steel. "You misunderstand, Arbiter. I am not suggesting anything. I am informing you of what is already happening." She gestured, and the chamber's displays activated again, showing real-time footage of Vordari military installations across 3 systems, simultaneously exploding in brilliantly coordinated strikes. "These are not acts of emotion, but of calculation," Chen continued as the Council watched in horror. "Every individual involved in Mira's capture, every scientist who performed experiments, every officer who gave orders, every administrator who approved the project, they have already been dealt with." Supreme Commander Vex staggered backward. "Impossible. Many of those individuals were in secure locations known only to. We found them all," Commander, Chen interrupted. Just as we will find anyone who attempts to continue your work. Vex's security detail moved to surround him, weapons drawn. Chen didn't even glance their way. Your weapons won't be necessary, she said calmly. Commander Vex isn't leaving with you. Before anyone could react, Vex's security team collapsed simultaneously, as if their bodies had simply decided to stop functioning. No weapons had been fired, no poison gas detected. They simply fell. Vex backed away, genuine terror evident in his movements. What are you? We are what you made us, Chen replied. When you hurt our child. Meanwhile, on Earth, in a secure medical facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, a team of specialists worked tirelessly to heal Mira Santiago. The physical injuries were straightforward: malnutrition, sleep deprivation, nerve damage from sensory testing. The psychological trauma was far more complex. Dr. Kavita Sharma, Earth's leading child psychologist, sat beside Mira's bed, watching the girl sleep fitfully. How is she? Asked a voice from the doorway. Dr. Sharma turned to see Admiral Chen, who had returned from the council meeting hours earlier. As well as can be expected, the neural regeneration is working. The nightmares are still frequent, but decreasing in intensity. Chen moved to stand beside the bed, looking down at the small figure. For a brief moment, her carefully controlled expression slipped, revealing a depth of rage that would have terrified the Galactic Council far more than her formal demeanor. Will she recover? Chen asked quietly. Dr. Sharma sighed. Physically, yes. Emotionally, children are remarkably resilient. But what she experienced, she shook her head. It will always be part of her, but will help her build a life around it, not defined by it. Chen nodded, then asked the question that had been haunting Earth's leadership since Mira's rescue. Did we go too far? Dr. Sharma considered this carefully. The Vordari hurt a child deliberately, methodically, and without remorse. They recorded it. They celebrated it as scientific progress. She looked up at Chen. If humanity had responded with anything less than absolute force, it would have told the galaxy that our children are acceptable targets. You prevented the next abduction. Across the stars, the Vordari Dominion was learning the full consequences of their actions. Their military capabilities had been systematically dismantled. Their leadership structure was in chaos. 3 of their colony worlds, those directly involved in Project Resilience, had been evacuated, then transformed into uninhabitable wastes through precisely targeted strikes against environmental control systems. The message was clear. The worlds that hurt Mira would never support Vordari life again. In the council chamber, negotiations continued for 3 days without interruption. The Vordari representatives, those who remained after Supreme Commander Vex's removal, agreed to unprecedented concessions. 90% of their military assets would be decommissioned. All research involving sentient subjects would cease. Reparations would be paid to human colonies for the next century. Most significantly, a permanent human observation post would be established in the heart of Vordari space, with unlimited access to all Dominion facilities. Ambassador T-Lax of the Centauri approached Admiral Chen after the final documents were signed. You could have demanded their extinction, he noted quietly. You have the capability. Why show restraint now? Chen's gaze was distant. Extinction was never our goal, Ambassador. Justice was. The individuals responsible have been held accountable. The institutions that enabled them have been dismantled. The message has been delivered. And what message is that, precisely? Chen looked at him directly. That human children are not research subjects. That we will find anyone who harms them, no matter where they hide. That there are consequences beyond imagination for causing such pain. T-Lax nodded slowly. The galaxy will not forget this demonstration. That's the point, Ambassador. 6 months later, Mira Santiago stood at the viewport of the starship Resilience, watching as Earth grew larger in the distance. After extensive therapy and recovery, she was finally going home. not to Hyperion Colony, which was being rebuilt, but to Earth, where distant relatives had offered her a new family. Admiral Chen stood beside her, out of uniform for the first time since Protocol Obsidian had been enacted. "Are you ready?" she asked gently. Mira continued gazing at the blue-green planet. "I still have nightmares," she admitted. "I know," Chen replied. "They may never completely go away. But they're different now," Mira continued. "Before, I dreamed about being alone, about no one coming to help me." She looked up at the Admiral. "Now I dream that when I call, the whole Earth answers." Chen placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. "That's not a dream, Mira. That's a promise." As the Resilience approached Earth's orbit, a formation of military vessels appeared, arranging themselves in an honor guard pattern. It was an unprecedented display. Ships from every branch of Earth's defenses gathered to welcome home one small girl. In the aftermath of what would become known as the Vordari Lesson, the galactic political landscape shifted dramatically. Human representatives, previously considered diplomatic lightweights, now found their opinions sought and their warnings heeded. Trade agreements suddenly favored Earth's interests. Research collaborations blossomed as species formerly reluctant to share technology now eagerly offered partnerships. Fear played its part, certainly. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's capacity for retribution. But there was something else, a grudging respect. In a universe where most species protected their own interests above all else, humanity had demonstrated a willingness to risk everything to protect a single child. On Vordar Prime, now under the watchful eye of human observers, schools began teaching a new history curriculum. Young Vordari learned about Mira Santiago and the catastrophic error their civilization had made. They learned about human protective instincts and the concept of childhood innocence. They learned that some lines, once crossed, could not be uncrossed. And throughout the galaxy, a new understanding took hold. Advanced technology was impressive. Military might commanded respect. Economic power bought influence. But nothing was as dangerous as a species that would tear apart the stars to save one child. 3 years later, a commemorative marker was placed on the rebuilt Hyperion colony. It stood in what had once been the Santiago family's garden, a symbol